Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this evening's quarterfinals debate. My name is Noel Kugas, and I am the chairman of this debate. The timekeeper is Fatima. This debate will be judged by a panel of 3 adjudicators, who are Mr. Parcelidis, Miss Wadlow III, and Miss Hazel. The topic for our debate is that corflute posters used during elections in South Australia should be banned. The affirmative team seated to my right is Southern Vales Christian College. The negative team seated to my left is from Norwood International. The speaking time for this debate is 3 minutes. A single warning bell will sound 1 minute before the speaking time. And a double bell will ring at the speaking time. A continuous bell may be rung. Never mind. Please ensure that your mobile phones are switched off. I declare this debate opened and call upon the first affirmative speaker, Lily Quigley.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that corflute posters used during elections in South Australia should be banned. We define the topic as corflute posters, meaning a temporary sign or poster that is made of congruent plastic sheeting. Election, meaning a formal and organised choice by vote of a person for a political office or other position. Ban, meaning officially or legally prohibit. And South Australia, meaning a state of South Central Australia on the Great Australian Bit. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true. Today, as first speaker, I'll be talking to you about how election posters can distract South Australian drivers from driving and how they aren't actually effective to people's votes. Our second speaker will be talking about the very high costs of the corflute posters and how it will be a waste of Earth's limited resources. Our third speaker will rebut and sum up our team case. Today I'm going to discuss 2 points. My first point is how election posters hanging up near votes could distract drivers and cause them to crash. Obviously we would not want this to happen. According to Lavisa Peterson, the leader of RFF, states the purpose of an election poster is to attract people's attention, and all this extra information is causing a distraction to drivers. To back this up, according to the Australian Car Accident Report in 2022, distraction is one of the leading causes of death on our roads. Even though there are many rules for where to put these posters, lots of different people just disobey them. Now to my second point. Advertising by the use of posters and other kinds of advertising when it comes to politics are largely not effective in winning votes. This is because, according to Dr. Isaac Chia, an associate professor of management and marketing at Curtin University, says, we have to remember that people have a predisposition when it comes to political ads. Another study in America that investigated the impact of 49 high-profile advertisements from the 2016 presidential campaign also found that political ads have little impact on voters' preferences. So, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, why would you want to endorse something that is largely ineffective and contributes to the growing road toll on our roads? I would like to end my speech tonight on a quote by Zaid Abudinol. There are 2 things you should never waste your time on: things that don't matter and people that don't think you matter. Thank you.
call from the first negative speaker, Jennifer Legoff.
Good evening, Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that corflute posters used during elections in South Australia should be banned. We agree with the definition given by the affirmative team. We, the negative team, firmly believe that the topic up for debate is false. Today, as first speaker, I'll be talking to you about why all political advertising is important. If corflute posters were banned, this would mean there would be one less vehicle available for advertising, a vitally important mechanism in our democracy. Our second speaker will be talking about the benefits of corflute and why it should not be replaced by other forms of advertising. Our third speaker will rebut and sum up our team case. The first speaker of the affirmative team has tried to tell you that corflute posters will cause more car accidents. This is wrong because there are countless advertisements on billboards, buildings and buses, and you don't see anyone complaining about those causing car accidents. The affirmative team has also tried to tell you that political advertising is useless and does not have much of an effect. Research by Dr. David Pizarro and other leading psychologists show that negative or fear-inducing advertisements keep people's attention longer and help them retain information. And another point that they have said is that they put them in the wrong spots. But according to Norman Waterhouse, an Adelaide commercial law firm, candidates and volunteers that break rules can get fined up to $5,000. My first point is about the importance of political advertising. Political advertising is using a paid announcement through the media to influence political debate and voters. It allows voters to know their options and what party candidates belong to. Voters should be able to make an informed decision about the candidates and policies they are voting for, and political advertising enables them to do so. It also helps the economy through creating work and circulating money. Political advertising also gets people to care about elections and think about who they vote for, which is important in a representative democracy. There is no point in voting randomly for strangers who you may not agree or align with. This means getting rid of political advertising means that people won't be able to make an educated decision that is truly what they want. As such, it is clear that political advertising is important. My second point is that the topic up for debate requires that all corflute posters be banned. This is wrong because some small businesses use these posters to advertise their goods and services. Banning corflute would mean that they would have to find another more expensive way to gain and attract customers, which can be detrimental to their business and can potentially damage the economy. This means that it's vitally clear that corflute posters should not be banned. So, Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we the negative team firmly believe that corflute posters used during elections in South Australia should not be banned. This is because banning corflute posters is detrimental to political advertising. Political advertising is important because it notifies people of elections and lets them know who their potential candidates are. As such, it is clear that we should not ban corflute posters used during South Australian elections. Thank you.
A call from the second affirmative speaker, Michael White.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that corflute posters used during elections in South Australia should be banned. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true. The first speaker from the negative team has tried to tell you that banning corflute would damage small businesses. This is incorrect because the topic clearly states that this would be used in elections, and also the cost wouldn't count up to the cost of all the political posters. Our first speaker has already stated about how dangerous and distracting corflute posters are for drivers, and how effective they really are. Today I'll be discussing 2 points. My first point is that we should ban them due to high costs and use of Earth's limited resources. In 2014, over 600,000 election posters were made, and according to Wilson Science, making 600,000 signs would cost over $3 million. $3 million! That's a lot of money for posters with people's faces on them. If you think about it, are these plastic posters worth the cost? If this money was used more effectively, then 300,000 trees would be planted according to Koala Cleansing Foundation. Onto the Earth's natural resources. To make corflute, you need polypropylene, and to make that you need petroleum and natural gas. These are both non-renewable resources, which means once they're used, they don't come back. In addition, it needs large amounts of water and electricity. To make 1 kilogram of this plastic, it takes 13 bathtubs of water. This is according to ourendangeredworld.com. For these reasons, we believe that South Australia should ban corflute signs because of the high financial cost and the use of Earth's limited resources. Not only does corflute cost a lot to make it, it should be banned because it's costing the environment too. The polypropylene that corflute is made from, when exposed to UV, creates microplastic waste. Microplastics have been found at the ocean's depths to mountain peaks, inside our bodies, and even food. This is according to Focus on and Science X Network. Also, according to Green News, corflute posters, if not recycled, will stick around for up to 400 years. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be seeing politicians' faces for the next 400 years. If you think recycling corflute posters is easy, then think again. There are only 2 places in Australia where they can be recycled, one in Sydney and one in Melbourne, which is very far away from South Australia. To transport posters creates a lot of greenhouse gases, which are terrible for the environment, and they will only recycle the ones that don't have stickers, eyelets, stakes, and that are bundled properly. And the sad truth is, as Focus Man states, most of these signs still end up in landfill. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we the affirmative team believe that corflute signs should be banned in elections for the financial cost, material cost, and the cost to the environment. Now, let me leave you off with a quote. Unless someone like you cares a whole lot, nothing's going to get better, it's not. Dr. Seuss, the Lorax. Thank you.
I call upon the second negative speaker, Claire Lee.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that corflute posters used during elections in South Australia should be banned. We, the negative team, undoubtedly believe that this statement is false. The second affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that corflute posters are highly detrimental to the environment. This statement is false because according to the Australian Greens Party, corflute posters are 100% recyclable at Corex recycling centres placed all across Australia and South Australia. They have also said that corflute posters are simply way too expensive. This is wrong because other forms of advertising are tremendously more expensive. Corflute posters are amongst the cheapest forms of advertising, hence why they are used by many parties. Our first speaker has already stated that political advertising is important. In addition to this, I would like to add that such cheap cost of implementing corflute posters promote equity to independent candidates and other groups without the need of party support or extensive budget. According to Savasme, a professional business consulting organisation, a 30-second commercial costs more than $40,000 merely to broadcast, along with a full-page ad in a newspaper requiring a budget of at least $50,000. In other words, corflute posters, due to its costs, are highly accessible to many parties, thus banning them will lead to an unfair political playing field. In other words, there will be a political hierarchy where only those parties with larger amounts of budget will be able to advertise their faces and motives, while smaller parties and independents will not get a chance to. Therefore, it is crystal clear that the South Australian government must not ban corflute posters during South Australian elections. My second point is that corflute posters are targeted to the area where people live, unlike other forms of advertising. Reducing the area of focus specifically to relevant sites is extremely beneficial. Normally, candidates have to advertise more widely, i.e. in TV, which, as stated before, is extremely costly, but simultaneously lack the guarantee that the appropriate audience would be reached. Since corflutes are region-specific, politicians don't waste time and resources on people who can't cast ballots in their favour, and voters only learn about candidates who are relevant to them. Other forms of advertising are a gamble that the voter of that area is reached, whilst corflute posters guarantee at least a flash of their name, party, and a little bit of their motive, since people are bound to see them placed in public places and stovey poles. For this reason, it is obvious that corflute posters must not be banned during elections in South Australia. So, Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, we, the negative team, firmly stand to the voice that corflute posters must remain in South Australia during elections. This is due to the fact that corflute posters are cheaper than other forms of advertisement and therefore provides equity, and because corflute posters are region specific. Thank you.
I call upon the third negative affirmative speaker, Alice Ball.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that corflute posters used during elections in South Australia should be banned. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true. The first negative speaker has tried to tell you that it allows voters to know who they are voting for. This is incorrect because there are so many different ways to advertise and see who is running up for the elections. For example, social media. There are 4.7 billion people who use social media, so there could be other ways to advertise. The second negative speaker has tried to tell you that people with budgets can vote, but smaller companies can't. This is wrong because some companies with smaller budgets could also find other ways to vote. Our first speaker spoke to you about how election posters will distract South Australian drivers from staying focused. She also spoke to you about how advertising electoral posters are not really effective. Our second speaker told you about the cost of buying and making corflute posters and how we have limited resources to make them. Each year, over $3 million is spent to make the posters. She also said that how making them is terrible for the environment because the posters decompose after 400 years and making them waste over 13 bathtubs of water. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we the affirmative team believe that corflute posters used during elections in South Australia should be banned because they are terrible for the environment, they cost a lot of money, we only have limited resources, and that they distract drivers. I'd like to leave you with this quote by Joel Osteen. Stay focused, ignore the distractions, and you'll accomplish your goals much faster. Thank you.
And I call upon the third negative speaker, CJ Parkinson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that corflute posters used during elections in South Australia should be banned. We, the negative team, believe that this statement is false. The first affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that corflute posters along roads will distract drivers and cause more accidents. This may be true, but it is incorrect, false. These posters will only be looked at for about 4 seconds with only a short slogan, a name, and a picture on it. And this completely outlaws the fact that billboards exist with a lot more information that is very difficult to ignore when it's bright and glowing in your face. They also said that political views from a poster isn't going to change yours that much. Well, yes, it could be true that your political views won't be changed by a poster. It allows you to know who you are voting for and who will be able to represent you. The second affirmative speaker has also tried to tell you that corflute is incredibly expensive, $3 million in fact, as well as is detrimental to the environment. Corflute posters for elections are only used for about 3 to 4 years, and what else can be used by this? Laminated? That can't be recycled or reprinted on. Our first speaker spoke to you about the importance of political advertising. It allows voters to know their options, beliefs, and candidates. She also said that small businesses use these posters to advertise their goods and services. Banning it would mean they'd have to find a much more expensive way. Our second speaker spoke to you about how using corflute is much cheaper than other forms of advertising. She also stated that corflute posters are targeted to the area where people live, unlike other forms of advertising. If these posters were banned, candidates would have to advertise more widely, such as in TV, which is, as stated before, extremely costly, and without the guarantee the right audience would be reached. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
While the adjudicators finalise the result, I will read this evening's chairman's notices. We are delighted to announce that the grand finals will be held in the House of Assembly Chamber, Parliament House, on Saturday the 24th of September 2022. Year 10 and senior, would you like to be Year 10s and seniors?
You don't need to read that one out.
Oh, okay. Do I have to read the bottom one out? Topic and side information for semi-finals will be available on on the Debating Essay website from tomorrow morning. Please be sure to check your side and debate time information carefully. Debates will be held here at the same venue next week.
Chairman, would you please repeat that website that you mentioned?
Of course. The information for the semi-finals will be available on the Debating Essay website. That's debatingessay.com.au.
Thank you.
Panels come forward and announce the results.
So firstly, we'd like to congratulate both teams on making it to the quarterfinals. It's a really big achievement and you should both be really proud of yourselves and very well done for making it this far into the competition for both teams. That goes without saying. So you will have noticed that tonight there were 3 adjudicators who adjudicated this debate. Each of us arrived at our decision independently. And because of that, there is no individual feedback tonight. So I'm just going to give a brief reason for the decision that was reached. I can tell you whether it was split or unanimous, and then obviously the winner of the debate and also the debating award. So tonight the debate was awarded to the team that generally we felt had the more well-developed arguments, reasoning and rebuttal. I can announce that by a split decision of 2 to 1, tonight the negative team won. Additionally, tonight I can announce that we have awarded the debating award to second negative speaker, Claire.
I call upon a member of the runner-up team to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you to Chairman, Timekeeper, all 3 adjudicators, negative team and parents for coming. We really enjoyed debating against you guys tonight.
I call upon a member of the winning team to second that vote of thanks.
I'd like to thank the audience for coming, obviously the adjudicators for coming as well. I'd like to thank my team. I know you all worked really hard, and I'd like to thank the affirmative team. You guys debated really well.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. I now declare this debate closed.
Stop on the